Brad Stevens went to Olathe to feature a family-owned vineyard and winery for this week's Friday Night Flights. He says what's going on at Stone Pillar Vineyard is historic.
The soil that provides the nutrients for these grapevines has been farmed by the same family since the 1860s. In fact, no other family in the history of the state of Kansas has owned the same plot of land longer than the Hoffs.
I'd heard these stories growing up my whole life.
George Hoff grew up on this land, and man, does he have some history to share.
The bushwhackers essentially showed up at their doorstep looking for gold.
According to this Kansas City Times newspaper article, Civil War-era bushwhackers raided the Hoff family home and tried to rob his great-great-grandfather, Frederick Hoff. It was a violent time in the U.S., with Americans on both sides of the Civil War fighting like the Hatfields and McCoys.
He got shot several times. It's kind of amazing that he survived that.
Frederick Hoff did survive, and so did the family farm. Generations later, this plot of land just south of K-10 on Woodland Road is still thriving. What grapes are we looking at here?
These are our Riesling grapes.
Hoff and his assistant vintner, Doug Lacerte, are crushing 1,500 pounds of Riesling grapes.
There's a rubber bladder in here that's kind of like a balloon, and it pushes out against these slats in this press. So all that mush that you saw us putting in there, it's right now pushing that out against the edge and squeezing the juice down.
When it's all said and done, they'll get about 220 gallons of juice out of this press. Lacerte says each batch of wine he creates comes with its own story.
You get the story of who makes it, where it comes from. Sometimes the grapes come from here, sometimes they don't. So you get a real explanation and really just a story that you get to drink and appreciate while you're having fun.
These two couples were having fun at Stone Pillar, enjoying some wine and wine slushies. Your review?
Strawberry kiwi is the best. It is really good. Not too tart, not too sweet, just right.
I can understand why the Hatfields and McCoys fought like they did.
After learning of the Civil War-era violence on the Hoff farm, I ran into Paul Hatfield of Blue Springs, Missouri. Nicest guy you'll ever meet, but there's a lot of feuding in his family tree.
The attitudes and history, stubbornness, you know, that kind of runs through some of our family, and of course not me, of course, but
they grow really well in this region.
In 2007, Hoff planted the first grapevines here. Nice. A couple years later, he sold most of his farm equipment and opened Stone Pillar in 2009. He says these grapes are almost ready for harvest.
But we're also looking at the skins, seeing the ripeness levels. Yeah, you can peel it back. You can see the colors are developing really nicely. And inside, we could actually press this off into a white wine.
They produce over 20 different wines here, as well as 3 varieties of cider. Today, they're bottling Joko, Stone Pillar's semi-sweet barrel-aged red wine. To a local vineyard and winery rich in history, cheers to Stone Pillar.
Cheers.
Cheers. In Olathe, Brad Stevens, KCTV 5 News.